Alice Linahan. Everybody introduce yourself for the record.
And thank you all for allowing me this opportunity. My name is Alice Linahan, and I am a mom in Argyle ISD, a public school district that I'm very proud of and proud to have my children a part of. I changed my testimony from what I had printed out to give you, so I'm going to email it to you after hearing everything that I heard today. Number one, all this intervention and control given to the Commissioner of Education by the state is based on an invalid accountability system. If you have access to Dr. Sandra Stotsky's excellent report on what American students are reading, it points out that our high school reading materials are written at a 5th grade level. Of course, that would allow for more students to graduate as long as they can pass the state tests. As the state are the state tests written for that reading level? In fact, has anyone measured the reading level of all of the tests? If not, how can performance-based assessments be used for accurate measurement for the students, teachers, and schools? Nikona Hayes, who was on the committee, grades 3 through 5, that helped rewrite the Texas math standards for 2012, she personally told me she was furious when she saw the questions that had been designed for 5th grade. As long as we have such terrible creation of assessments that are not meant to measure academic intelligence in a discipline, especially in mathematics, but to measure nuance and critical analysis of the meaning of a question, how dare we use these tests to measure the academic education of our children and their schools? On August 3rd, I testified in front of this committee and told a story of what the reality on the ground looked like in our school district implementing 21st century learning. We're a 4-star Lone Star Cup winning school district. During my testimony, I encouraged you to ask me what I thought about the teacher who gave my daughter a philosophy quiz in AP dual credit English that a clinical mental health counselor, Joan Land, stated was an inappropriate use of psychological force on impressionable minds and unformed identities. Not one of those in attendance asked me what I thought of this teacher's actions. Because of that, I put my testimony out publicly on Facebook along with a clip explaining that it's not necessarily the teacher who should be held accountable, but ultimately the superintendent and locally elected school board should be held accountable, who are aligning with TASA and TASB's new vision for public education. I hope today you'll ask me more about that. As of this morning, that Facebook video has had over 41,600 views and has been shared 1,409 times without one drop of media coverage. This is purely from moms, dads, grandparents, and teachers sharing this information with their friends and neighbors, your constituents, both Republican and Democrat. As your constituents, we are also holding you accountable for allowing, through a coordinated effort of the passage of legislation, alignment with the unconstitutional federal mandates of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act and the Every Student Succeeds Act, which aligns with the College and Career Readiness Common Core National Standards. And I'll close with this. All schools, public, private, charter, are being forced to align with the federal national standards. Let me assure you, school choice is no choice, because all national assessments, the SAT, ACT, and AP, have been dumbed down and aligned to the shift away from academics to attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. And as a Texas mom, I do not consent for my children's private data to be collected through Schools of Innovation that opens the door for competency-based personalized learning. My children's data is not the state's new commodity. After letting parents across Texas know I was coming back today, I have messages from them. I had countless comments. I'm a former teacher and instructional specialist. This is a comment. Upon retirement in 2005, I worked for one of the largest publishers. I learned that it's all about money, such as competition to win the publishing contracts that so much lobbying, including financial, were occurring. It's ridiculous because the parents and taxpayers have no idea that it's about who spends the most money lobbying the legislators. And I could go on.
Hi, Alice. I'll ask you a question.
Sorry.
Let me ask you the question of the TASA 2008 that was referred to in the previous panel. And is that the core curriculum push that is really not allowable through Texas statute?
Yes, and it came in through, they got around it through Senate Bill 1557 that set up the High Performance Consortium. That in the next generation of assessments and accountability commission meetings, Dr. Orr and Dr. Rude testified that the High Performance Consortium was the pilot program for the next generation of assessments and accountability. And if you look at the recommendations and who the experts were that testified in front of the next generation of assessments and accountability, they were clearly aligning to the Every Student Succeeds Act. And when I asked Senator Taylor, it's about funding. You're being forced to align to ESA in order to get the federal funding. But that is unconstitutional.
So you talked about the ACT and SAT, and I'm living that right now with my daughter, and the standards and how they align. And so there have been some that I've read that said if Texas doesn't align more properly, their students are going to lag behind in these national standard tests, which, determine what college you go to or don't go to, including our own state universities. What say you?
Well, if you follow the business model and how they implemented the Common Core National Standards into 45 states, one of the key players in all of that was David Coleman. And David Coleman is now the president of the College Board.
Right.
And he has said that he's aligning the SAT. That AP dual credit course that I mentioned that my daughter took, when I asked the teacher, why did you, it was a philosophy quiz.
It was on what subject, Alice?
It was an English class, but they were talking about philosophy, and she was using the 4 C's: collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and creativity. She broke the kids up into groups, collaboration. My child, we opted her out of the district Chromebook. I don't want her data being collected through, and through the next generation of assessments, especially if they're formative monitoring assessments through daily activities. The teacher sent the kids out on a website to do a philosophy quiz. This philosophy quiz gave 30 questions, and it asked things like, do you believe in an almighty God? Do you believe homosexuality is unnatural? Do you believe children should be protected at all costs? Do you believe that the Holocaust happened as it was stated in the textbooks? And then it gave a tension score, this website. And my daughter's report said that you said you believed in an almighty God, but you also said that you believe children should be protected at all costs. Children are maimed and killed in natural disasters all the time. If there was a God, he would have protected the children.
Yeah.
But that sounds crazy.
No.
What teacher would be okay with that? But when I talked to that teacher, she said she was doing her job, and her professional development comes from the education service centers in this 21st century learning model where they're using the 4 C's. And that's where we're talking about these alignments or these assessments that we're holding these districts accountable to, and what the districts of innovation, if you read what ALEC says, the reason why they're bringing in districts of innovation, it is all about shifting to competency-based education, school to work, and it's a dumbing down, just like Dr. McConaughey said. We're not even testing kids on an accurate reading level. So as a mom, yes, I'm mad about that test, and I don't want my child in that, but I'm more angry about the fact that the training that my school board members, the training that my superintendent is getting, and the professional development is all about this shift away from academics to attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. And I, in the past, would have never asked a teacher, what is your political affiliation? What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
but if they have access to my child's mind, I sure as heck, and that goes on the right and the left. I'm sure that there's moms that don't agree with me politically that want their
your
kid.
point is, and let me make sure, because I'm really working on this. This is my first tour of duty on an education policy committee in my years of serving. Is 5 times 5 equals 25, right? And less of that is being taught than here's a bunch of stuff, and oh, by the way, this 5 times 5 equal 25.
Dr. Milgram, who was appointed to validate the Common Core national standards in math, refused to because he said that our children would be behind 2 to 3 years in math. Even scarier, he said children who are in this type of math system that they're implementing with the new math teaks here in Texas, they're in it for more than 4 years, they're done. They will never recover. We don't have time to wait. Our youngest, I have an 18-year-old and I have a 12-year-old. The way my 18-year-old in Argyle ISD, which I love our school district, the way he was taught math was completely different than my 12-year-old. My 12-year-old came home crying every night, and I had to pull him out of the public school.
Well, and let me just say this, members, as a mother of 2 public school children again, I have seen a shift. And I've all thought that this was fake and not real, but I have seen a shift. And I had private tutoring for Jake last year to learn more algebra the way I learned it. And so we'll continue to work on this. I promise you, we are engaged, both this panel full of Democrats and Republicans and caring people to get to the bottom of this. And the one thing I would ask Alice, and I know you work really hard, I do think the empowerment of local elected officials is a key to the future and making sure that they understand student outcome and the curriculum being taught. And the SBOE has got to be a part of this. And if we're skirting state law right now, which I know Governor Dan Patrick, it was one of his big issues after he departed to become lieutenant governor. If we're skirting around the law, then we need to understand that better. So appreciate it very much. Thank you all for coming and testifying. I told Senator Taylor I've been in this building for 16 years, and this is one of my favorite hearings I've ever had. I think the exchanges have been excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you.
Ms. Castaneda?
You mentioned innovative districts. Now, I was looking at innovative districts as something really exciting. I was all excited about breaking the chains of the standardized testing, and you see it as something different.
I do, because I look at what happened with the waiver that Texas took, the No Child Left Behind waiver from the federal government. And so if you have to get, you got to give to get. And if you look at the language in 1842, it's a school choice bill in that it's giving so much power to the Commissioner of Education, which is an appointed position. It's not elected, and a locally elected or statewide elected position. You're giving all that power to this Commissioner of Education. And you have all these districts clamoring to get out from under the code, whether it's the start date. But if you actually read the documentation, like from ALEC, who is pushing it, from TASB, who's pushing it, from Teach for America, who's pushing it, it's all about opening up the door for 21st century learning. And that, to me, is scary. If we had valid assessments that actually assessed if children were reading, writing, and doing math and learning history, we wouldn't need all this lobby stuff. We wouldn't need all these people who are making huge amounts of money. One of the scariest things to me as a mother when I started finding out and doing research, when in 2000, I believe it's 2011, 2012, when the federal government, Obama through an executive order, changed the regulation on the FERPA law. He didn't change the law, he changed the regulation to say that in the name of education research, our children's data can be collected without parental consent. That opened up Pandora's box for all these third-party contractors who now have access to my children's private data. And it's not that I think that they want to track my child. It is opening up the door. When Commissioner Morath testified to the next generation of assessments and accountability, he was actually calling for Texas standards to put in place to assess non-cognitive character skills of students. That is very scary if you have third-party contractors and now they're doing adaptive assessments. Dr. Peg Lexick, I highly encourage y'all contact her. She's fought this, she's from Pennsylvania, and she worked for the Department of Education. They were doing adaptive assessments in the 80s and 90s, and they were assessing they were psychologically profiling students. Anita Hogue sued the state of Pennsylvania.
So you're saying that we need to have stricter and tighter controls over student privacy
Yes.
as much as and
That is
like we do medical
huge.
records. I've truly championed medical records. It is going to be so vital for our future that medical records be.
I would say school districts, instead of spending funds and time and energy on becoming a district of innovation, spend time building a comprehensive privacy plan to make sure that that district, I don't mind a district and a teacher collecting, data on my child to give to the next teacher to know where my child is. But when third-party contractors are using that data to create adaptive assessments,
And that we'll do more. It's a long day, but thank you very much.
thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't know if that's accurate. We are going to check on that, and if it's not, we'll obviously need to take means to correct that, because the idea of some of the terms you say,
It's
I have
hard
a problem, because I'm for 21st century education, but I'm talking about bringing technology and some other things to deal with. I think we're talking about two different 21st century educations. But we certainly don't want individual students going out. There's privacy we have all around us.
Right.
So we're checking on that. We'll get
And
back
let me
on
say, I'm not against all technology. I'm for technology being used as a
that. You don't like the
tool.
tracking of your child.
I don't want
understand that.
adaptive assessments.
And I don't think third parties, now they may get aggregated data, which I think we all need. We need data. Our commissioner is very data driven, but we don't need individual students' data being out there. But aggregated, I don't think we have a problem with aggregated data to see how we're doing and where we need to do better.
I would highly recommend that you bring in Dr. Peg Lexick.
Peg
Luxick, Luksick.
If you would send that.
Yes. And
We will
I know
check
she
on that.
testifies
I don't
in
think
front
anybody
of
wants private students'
legislatures.
data out there.